Welcome to the Agile Wire. Brought to you by Wisconsin Agility. We want you to get agile and stay agile. Now here are your hosts, Jeff Bubolz and Chad Beier. And we're recording. All right, kick us off, Jeff.
All right, we have Angela Johnson joining us on the podcast today. Thanks for joining us, Angela.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we wanted to dive right into the Scrum Master accountability and dive into, what's the problem that you're seeing today with the Scrum Master accountability?
Scrum Masters putting their hands all over everybody else's work.
So what do you mean by that? Tell us more.
Turning into their secretary. You know, these Scrum Masters that feel that they have to be JIRA administrators, or during refinement, you see the Scrum Master furiously typing like there's some sort of a court reporter, or worse, everybody puts it on screen and then they say, Angela, can you backspace? No, Angela, that's not what I meant. No, Angela, you have a typo there. Ugh. Long, boring, painful for everyone. And it sets up a lot of dysfunctions in the Scrum team.
Yeah, it's like everybody writing a college paper together, right? Like with one cursor and it's just going back and forth. It's painful.
It's great that you said college paper, because if I want to start off being really evil here today, this is what I do to some of the teams that I coach when you get those developers who are like, I don't want to. I don't take notes. Right? That's the Scrum Master's job. I had one who just set me up so nicely because he mentioned college, right? I went to college to be a developer. I said, hey, did somebody else do all your papers and your homework for you? And he goes, no. He just fell right into my trap. And I said, gosh, that sounds really inefficient. Why? Why did you do all your homework? And he goes, so I could learn. Ah. And now you have a job building products for this company, and you're done learning? You're done learning? Trot out the secretaries? Because you don't want to learn anything about this product you're building. You want somebody to hand you stuff that they've written down. And he just glared at me for the rest of the conversation. But point made. Because the people who write the most learn the most. It's rooted in behavioral psychology, brain science. I mean, whatever discipline you want to go to.
Yeah. So do you think it's a Scrum Master? So it is a Scrum Master thing, right? We've seen this up. It's a known anti-pattern that's discussed a lot, even in training materials, right? Like the secretary, the clerk, the admin, and there's times where that's maybe helpful, but if it's overdone, it can become a problem, right? Where all the communication is flowing through one person. Do you think it's unique to Scrum, though? I guess I would like to throw into the room, I think too many meetings around the world still just suck for no reason.
For sure.
It's just because of poor facilitation skills. I truly think facilitation is like this superpower because it's so underutilized that when somebody who even has mediocre facilitation skills steps up in a meeting with many people, or even a small group of people, it can transform that 60 minutes instead of just everyone sitting there watching someone type.
Right.
So I don't know. Do you think, thoughts on that?
I love that. I've been facilitating so long. It's been 19 years now. I just slip into it. And so in my Scrum Master classes, I still do a role play because I'm old school, but I want people to practice when the bar is real low. I'm like, nobody's getting fired in here. You know what I'm saying? And if a Scrum Master they're missing it. They're completely missing those facilitation things you just talked about. Yep. And they can say, oh, Jeff, what a great idea. Could you jot that down? Oh, Chad, thanks for chiming in. Could you add that? So it's more about helping that conversation along. And I slip into it so much. I was in a women business owner group that I had joined, and we were on Zoom for a call, and it was so bad. And the person trying to facilitate kept blaming Zoom. Oh, Zoom doesn't let you do this. Zoom doesn't let you do that. And I'm like, yes, it does. Could you just pass me the controls? And then I started stacking the conversation because everybody was trying to talk at once. And then you get that especially on video calls. So, first Jeff, then Chad. So at the end of the call, one of the women goes, "Why did that feel so much better?" And I'm like, "You're welcome." But now guess what? Guess who's gotten stuck facilitating all their calls? Right? Yep. But yeah, facilitation, so needed. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's just another one of those like corporate culture things that it's really not that hard to change. Like if somebody just steps up and starts showing you a different way with facilitation, I think it creates a low tolerance in everyone's mind, because the more you experience, I'm speaking from experience, I guess, but the more you experience even mediocre facilitation, like just some facilitation, right? But then if you experience really great facilitation, you have a low tolerance wherever you see it around the world. Like you go to a school board meeting, or it's like you go anywhere and you're just like, this is a disaster. And all it takes is one person with like a little bit of facilitation skills to change this. And so I don't know. I feel like the more you spread good facilitation skills around the world, it kind of slowly chips away at the culture to change it. And everyone's like, yeah, meetings don't have to suck anymore, especially blaming the technology now. Like that is you just can't do that anymore. You can't blame the technology.
Poor carpenter that blames their tools.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're so spoiled by technology, right? I mean, it's amazing what we can do.
Yep. So, if you think about it, like, why do we have meetings? It's so that we have alignment on what we're going to do, whatever it is, right? That's generally the reason for a meeting. And then you think about, well, if meetings suck, what do? We don't have alignment. So then we meet more, we meet longer. And then what happens? We meet more and longer, so people turn their video off. They disengage in different ways. Then we have to meet more and we have to meet longer. And then we get into this pattern where we're just like in meetings all day, our calendars are blocked, but no one's really focused and engaged. And it's just so wasteful inside of organizations. And I think that's probably the number one reason why I do what I do is because I just get really frustrated with waste. Like it's just
for sure.
Like we as our humankind can do so many things, but like we waste so much of our effort. And like if we just eliminate the waste, like just the possibilities are endless. So it's one of those things where like I think that facilitation skills is a great thing. Do you have anything inside of the Scrum Alliance, like curriculum, where you really focus on facilitation skills? Like, is there an advanced Scrum Master class? I don't know too much about it.
There is. In the advanced CSM, there is a whole section on facilitation, and I just love it so much because that's exactly where we hit those things. And then there's even more difficult or even more advanced facilitation skills covered in the Certified Scrum Professional, the CSPSM.
Okay.
Now they've come out with a facilitation class, and I'm gonna sound like I'm bashing my home team here, but you just mentioned waste, my friend, and that is near and dear to my heart. I don't like to engage in wasteful activities either, and so because we've done such a good job in the ACSM and the CSPSM with those facilitation learning objectives, here they trot out the 2-day facilitation class, and it's a regurgitation of those facilitation learning objectives. So I don't offer it, but I've been very clear with my feedback. I'm like, I'm not going to engage in waste when there's something else that would give a Scrum Master bang for their buck and still cover facilitation. And I know you all at scrum.org have a really great additional skills-based class in facilitation.
Yep. And they're also in the advanced Scrum Master course. We have the PSM-A that's been rebranded to. It's basically all facilitation around the class. Like it's done with liberating structures and teaching them in the back of the room. And then you teach people how to do that as you're doing the different, modules. So you're learning about something while doing facilitation. So it's like there's a lot of meta level learning there.
Love liberating structures. And I get, a lot of people will go to that site because it is open source and it has not been updated. So the instructions all assume in person. And here we are, not, in person. We're connected over Riverside. But they're really easy, I think, to adapt for a virtual environment. All those liberating structures. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, basically, that's what, when I was talking about the technology and we need to stop blaming it, like, having the ability to have breakout rooms was huge. Like as soon as that feature started hitting the tools, right? And again, I think Zoom was the first. We've been Zoom users for years now, but like it took a while for Teams and I think even Google to like introduced the breakout room functionality, and it still isn't quite as good, in my opinion, as Zoom. So again, like, I just don't think we can blame the technology. Just find the tool that allows you to replicate the real world as close as possible, right?
Right.
And breakout rooms give you so much flexibility in facilitating with things like liberating structures or anything where you need to divide and, breakout, merge, diverge cycles, essentially.
Diverge, converge, right?
Yeah.
Sam Gaynor.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's great, right? I think, anyway, I don't need to.
Back to our original point, though, about like, you don't have to do it all as a Scrum Master
Right.
or all as a facilitator. Like, one of the nice features inside of Zoom is you can just say, I open up breakout rooms. There's out there, join with a partner. All right, now go merge, and you're doing a 1, 2, 4 all. Now 2 partners, go merge with other partners. You don't have to do it. You don't have to be the one person moving everybody around. You can direct everybody and show them how to do it so that they can move on their own. And then you're not, frantically clicking, trying to move, 20, 30 people around in different rooms. Like,
Absolutely.
there's so many different ways to facilitate it where you can put people to work.
Absolutely. I love putting people to work, right? That's why I'm like, get your hands off team's work. And I always tell Scrum Masters that are learning this, they're like, oh, I don't know if I could ask Jeff to write that down. Oh, I don't think I could ask Chad. I'm like, you can totally lead the witness. You can totally say, be good cop Scrum Master. Hey, Jeff, you said that so well. Could you write it in your own words? I said, now, if you want to, you can be bad cop Scrum Master. And I excel at being bad cop Scrum Master. I will make it painfully obvious that my hands are not touching a keyboard. And I will say, this is amazing conversation. Who's going to jot it down so you remember it? And I will let the silence hurt, man. I will let that silence just hurt. And then when somebody says, I'll do it, thank you so much, then I'll follow up with the positive reinforcement. But I had a student recently who just suckered me in, man. She had this great poker face. She goes, no, Angela, I do it for them. I do their tasks at sprint planning. I started just getting ready to pummel her with brain science. She goes, and I screw it up. And she goes, so during the sprint, they'll be like, what the hell does this say? What does this mean? And she says, oh, you need it to make sense to you? Well, then maybe you should write it down next time. I said, I love you. You're my new favorite. Like, you're my spirit animal. It's the right kind of evil. You know what I mean?
I don't know if is that taught in any Scrum Master curriculum around the world, the passive aggressive approach.
Right. Well, here in the Midwest, Chad, we know a thing or two about passive aggressiveness, but we will start using it for good, not evil, right? We'll start using it for good, for the greater good.
Yeah. Yeah, the Midwest. I'm pretty sure the Midwest nice thing has come up multiple times on this podcast since we're both from the Midwest.
Yeah. My clients in the South say they have an equivalent. The Georgia passive aggressiveness is bless your heart. So if somebody says bless your heart,
Yeah.
That's their tell. So now you know. That's the Southern equivalent.
Yep. I think I've experienced that before. All right. Awesome.
So what else do you think? Yeah, I think we can dive back into the the admin role that the Scrum Master is in. Like, what are some different strategies or tactics a Scrum Master can use? I think we hit on a few of them, but are there any other ones that you like to lean on?
For sure. I love my evil one because it just, I don't know, it just helps make the point that the people who write the most learn the most, and the people we want knowing the most about the very product they're building is the developers. But I have some Scrum Masters who say, no, that's just not my personality style, or no, that doesn't work for the environment that I'm in. I'm like, okay, well, blame the training that you got, blame the education you got, and go into a retrospective. And the very first thing I want you to say as a Scrum Master is, I am sorry. I owe you all an apology. I had no idea I was taking your learning opportunities away. I had no opportunity how I was disempowering you as a self-managing team. And it stops today. Going forward, I'm not going to do that to you. What are they going to say to that? Seriously? If a Scrum Master and they can't be sarcastic about it, they have to be really sincere about it. But if they honestly and openly apologize and put the focus on, hey, this is me helping you help yourselves, because you're supposed to be an empowered team. You're supposed to be self-managing. You're supposed to be learning. I'm going to enable that going forward. I'm not going to take those opportunities away from you anymore. So that's another one that I've been using quite a bit recently.
Okay.
And a couple people were like, I can do that. I apologize all the time for nothing. Now that I have a reason to apologize, I can do that. So that's another one that I've been working on a lot. And then, of course, the good cop, bad cop, Scrum Master stuff.
Yeah, another one that we like to use is shifting the talk time to the people doing the work versus the people that are not doing the work. And so just like bringing that, like, up, just be like, we don't do refinement so that I understand as a Scrum Master. We really do it so you understand like what the problem is that we're trying to solve. So why am I talking so much? Like, I just want to help to clarify and make sure we're aligned. So why don't you like tell me what you understand this to be? What would this look like in a sprint review? And then you just ask those questions and let it sit. I think that's a nice way to kind of, and just explain like you should be doing most of the talking time inside of here and reset those expectations. And then we can ask how that went. Like at the very end, you're like, how do you think the talk time was distributed? Was it more leaning towards the people doing the work? And see what people think about that at the end of a refinement session or a sprint planning.
Nice. The acronym I teach Scrum Masters is WAIT. Wait. And it stands for, why am I talking? Right? So it's right in line with, but I like talk time. I might steal that. I like talk time. Because we definitely don't want the Scrum Master being the one learning everything about the product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about the scenario that we seem to run into, and I'm going to pick on contractors a little bit, but sometimes contractors come onto a team with employees and they take on more of an order taker mentality. Like, what do you want me to do? I'm a task doer. Tell me what tasks to do. When you run into those situations, do you address them any differently? Because it's not so much the Scrum Master. It might even be the like team lead or an employee that's a developer that they're expecting to get work from.
Or they, are hired as a contract QA or whatnot. Yeah. So one of the things I like to know, if I am the contractor, I want to know what's expected of me. And the thing that a lot of companies are just blowing off is the statement of work. And at the end of the day, when there is an issue, the only thing you have to go back to is a statement of work. Because sometimes if a contractor comes in and says, just tell me what to do, order taker mode, then it's like, well, on this team, we share the work, we pair, we partner. So what is it that you want to use your talents and abilities to do given the work that's available? Can you teach someone else? Can you learn from someone else? Can you pair with someone else? So Scrum Master can always take those kinds of approaches too. Mm-hmm. But I always want to know what has been given to that person as a set of expectations, because there is a whole lot of rudderless ships out there. These leaders not doing their job, managers not doing their job, salespeople not doing their job. In the absence of clear expectations, people struggle. The ego makes up what it doesn't know for sure. So they'll revert back to what they think is comfortable or what they think they're supposed to do. Whereas if we put it right into that contract, hey, Jeff, as a contract QA professional, we're going to have you join Angela's company. And at her company, the way they work is really a team-based approach. And so even though that's your expertise and your skill set, what's expected of you is to work together as a team. So sometimes you may be testing somebody else's stuff. Sometimes you may be driving or navigating, from a point of view so a developer can prevent making some of those mistakes. So if the person says, yeah, I'm not really interested in that, I'm kind of a hired gun and that doesn't sound like the environment for me, well, great, then we've avoided a problem. Mm-hmm. But if somebody says, oh, thanks for telling me, now I know what I'm walking into, then we can avoid some of those situations. Because I think there's just a whole lot of no expectation setting going on out there.
What's some of the worst things you've seen in an SOW that lead to anti-patterns?
Exactly that, right? Quality assurance lead responsible for closing bugs. Well, guess what? If they're measured on closing bugs, guess what they're going to do?
Yep.
Who cares if it works? But I closed it. Look at my number of bugs closed. Time and materials, right? Fixed bid, fixed scope, nothing about quality, right? I was thinking about that this morning, actually, as I knew I was going to get onto this conversation, and I had a little flashback in my mind 19 years ago to one of the last fixed bid SOWs I was on, because it was 6 months. We were told we had to get real-time price changes for this retail client of ours, and we were on time, in scope, in budget. My project was green, wasn't it? Angela was called a good project manager. So we invite the client into our office for UAT, user acceptance testing, as one does. And one of the women from the retailer, she runs a couple tests and she starts laughing out loud. And I'm like, what? That can't be good. She goes, well, I'm looking at this requirements document, version 13. And she goes, this is my signature. This is my signature. Yes, yes, yes. She said, but reading it with fresh eyes after 6 months, I totally see how y'all misinterpreted this, but it does the opposite of what we asked for. Sorry. Now, was my project really green? Hell no. But everything to the letter in that contract had happened, right? And then what did the bosses do to me and the team? You stay as late as it takes tonight to turn this around. Oh yeah, we're going to turn 6 months of work around like that. If only we could have talked. If only we could have done a review 2 weeks in, 4 weeks in, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think what's in contracts do a lot of damage. It hinders our agility, but it puts out crappy product.
Yep. Yeah, it's the structures that are put in place, right? Like, Craig always says, culture follows structure. And so it's just a structure that leads to the anti-pattern. So you can't blame the people. It's just the structure that was put in place. But you can put positive structure in too. I'm just thinking back to a story. There was one client where we came in and they had contractors come in, and each contractor was responsible for so many story points every single sprint. And so they wanted to put story points on every task, or every PBI became a task. And then we're just getting all this stuff done, all these points done, but really there's never an increment. So it's just, and it was individual behavior.
Those story points looked amazing. I'll bet those story
hundreds
points
of story
looked amazing.
points done a sprint. Yeah, it looked great, Yeah. So Angela, what are your thoughts on changing roles to accountabilities?
Love that change. Because now we were actually talking about who is accountable. And the Scrum Master is not accountable for documents and artifacts. They're accountable for team success, team behavior. And the developers are the ones who are accountable for producing that working product increment.
Yeah, I love it because it also says, aligns to these are things that need to be done and you need to make sure that they happen, but it doesn't have to be one person or a job description that does this. You can have your job description can be whatever you want it to be, but we need an accountability that does these things.
And accountability has to be experienced. I think about my own household. My son has shamelessly been using Scrum practices since he was 4.5. We have a video out on our YouTube channel, and he couldn't even read at the time, so there's drawings on the Post-it notes. But he was managing himself getting out of the house in the morning. So he's 11 now. When distance learning hit during COVID, we didn't have a problem. My friends were all complaining, and I'm like, my kid knows how to work a backlog. Mm-hmm. So, the teacher would trot out the to-do list, and it's as soon as you get through this list, you have the rest of the day to yourself. So he would just blow through that. So accountability has to be experienced. And so often the bosses will say, we want more accountable behavior. Stop giving them adult daycare providers. You can't have a project manager or a Scrum Master, managing all the tasks. I mean, you can, but you're lowering the accountability. So people have to manage themselves. That's how you get accountable behavior, writing things down for themselves, self-management.
Yeah, love it. I mean, kids do this. They can do it. They want to do it. Adults can do this too, right?
I've had so many people show that video of my son because it is, I know, what a mom, right? Just shamelessly promoting what I do for a living with my child. But they will literally send the video to their developers and go, look, a 4.5-year-old can do it. What's the problem?
I think I'm also.
So now we've talked about Midwest passive aggressiveness and shame as a bonus.
Yeah. Yes. Oh man, that could be a whole episode right there.
Right there, right?
The Midwest
with an extra helping of shame.
Yeah, the Midwest parents just guilting you into, hey, can I go to Johnny's house? You can do whatever you want, right? Like that whole like that guilty like, oh, you can make the decision, but you're gonna pay for it later. Like it's, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's crazy when you say that phrase, adult daycare provider. It's so provocative. I like it because I think on this podcast, I've been known to maybe just poke at sort of command and control management tendencies. You're not poking at it. You're like, you're diving into the deep end. Like adult daycare providers is really, I mean, again, we laugh at it because unfortunately it's true. Like
it's true.
There is this mentality of like, I can't count the number of times I probably quoted this now on this podcast, but whether it even was said by Steve Jobs or whoever said it, but it floats around on social media. We don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. We hire smart people to tell us what to do. And something like
McKnight, 3M.
Okay.
McKnight
so
said
there's
it,
the source.
and they have it on the wall at 3M.
Yeah, and I guess there's just not enough of that mentality in corporate America culture. It's not even corporate America. I would just say corporate culture. There's too much of this, oh, we have to coddle everybody and tell them what to do. And again, I don't think managers are evil by default, but it's just weird that is still so persistent.
It is.
And back to what Jeff said earlier, like the reason I think we do what we do is we can't stand waste. We can't stand seen waste, whether it's in a corporate environment or it's in, just our day-to-day lives. We hate doing things ineffectively, inefficiently. And so most of what drives us is just seeing that and wanting to change it.
As you were saying that, there's this manager living rent-free in my head right now that I'm failing miserably at coaching because I'm trying to get her literally to get her hands off her team's work, because she's even taking technical tasks. She's even dipping into the pool because she used to be able to write queries. And so she's literally taking tasks away from them. And when I was pointing out that she's lowering their accountability and taking their learning opportunity away, here's her go-to phrase. Angela, you don't understand. I'm only doing it until they get better at it.
Yep.
And I'm like, you realize they will literally never get better at it because you're not letting them do that. And she disagrees.
Yeah.
Because we talk people into learning. What? No, I mean, unless those people get to experience that for themselves, they're never going to learn.
Yep.
So she doesn't see this like negative reinforcing loop that she has that team in. And it's like, I'm desperately trying to find new ways to break it. So if you have any pearls of wisdom on that, I will happily take those. But, it's like managers have the best of intentions. Like you said, they're not evil. She's trying to help. She's trying to do good. But she is inadvertently taking their learning opportunity away.
Yeah, it's all about breaking that cycle, right? You just have to break that cycle of, I want them to be empowered and accountable, but you won't ever give them something to do that, right? Like it reminds me of a story, it's like a true story of my life. When I went to the college dorm room as a freshman in college, I was in the laundry room, and I grew up on a dairy farm in Wisconsin. I kind of had a hard work ethic, I guess, baked into my brain at an early age. And so I was doing my own laundry at a very early age. And now I think my 7-year-old daughter, I think she started doing her laundry last year. So 6-year-old doing her own laundry, right? Like, I don't know. Kids are capable. I ran into these kids in the freshman college dorm room, and I had to teach them how to do their laundry. And I remember calling my parents and being like, I was having like a divide by zero error in my brain. Like, I'm like, they're in college, right? Like, they got accepted to the same college I'm at. They don't know how to do their laundry. I was like, what's going on in the world? Like, I was like, seriously, it was like this moment in my life where I was so confused and I had to call and like work it out with my parents. Like, what's happening? Like, and this is decades ago, but it's if somebody doesn't have to learn something or if they're not allowed to, right? Not everybody, but they have to have that moment of like accountability, right?
Yeah.
And I know the parent-child thing is kind of like a weird thing to share in a work setting, like kind of back to your point. But you could use this one story too. Like, do you want your developers to be like this scenario? I had a friend just tell me the story about how their son went off to college and didn't know how to use a can opener. Like, they bought him all this food and he couldn't open it, so he didn't use it. Like, he didn't know how to use a can opener.
True story.
I should laugh, but it's so true. This is why these were the moments that we went, oh, we can make money doing it for them, right? The consulting brain kicked in and went, we'll charge for those services.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
So you don't want that to happen to your developers. You don't have to happen to any of your employees. You don't want that to happen to people. Like, I don't know, at some point we thought like we can be so specialized, we don't need to worry about these things. But if you're so specialized, you're not very responsive and adaptive. You always need somebody to get something of value out the door. And I think that's just something to reflect on. Like, they're always going to need you. And if they always need you, they're always going to be slow at delivering. And if you want them to be fast and be adaptable, then you have to stop doing stuff for them eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's, this is fun. I love talking about things and then forming new words and phrases to think about these topics. But I think there's two words that are bouncing around in my head. I think we focus too much, or we, as managers who are more controlling, they focus more on assuming somebody doesn't have the capability yet, but they have to lead with giving them the opportunity first. So capability versus opportunity. You have to give opportunities, whether you're talking about a child or an adult. You have to give someone an opportunity, and then that's where the accountability can kick in. It's not necessarily a sink or swim, but that's where you find out what people are made of. You give them an opportunity. And the thing is, most people in corporate environments, they have the capabilities. There's no question. This isn't like a kid can't do laundry and again, even in that situation, they're very capable. They just haven't had that opportunity presented to them, or maybe pushed or forced on them. So I think that's, I don't know, if we're going to change the management paradigm, maybe we need to talk more about that. It needs to be more about, you have to present and provide opportunities. That's your job.
And my go-to coaching question for Scrum Masters there, because I don't like to waste my time, so I teach people to ask, are you telling me that you're willing to learn? Are you telling me that you're willing to try, but that you just don't know how yet? Yeah, I guess I'd be willing to try if you could pair with me. Awesome, let's fix that. But if somebody says, no, I'm telling you, I don't wanna. Thank you so much for your honesty. I now need to escalate this because we've been asked to work this way. Oh, maybe I could look at that. I mean, you'd be amazed how many times when you thank you for your honesty, right? Because I don't wanna, is that a valid choice at this organization? But people are capable of learning, otherwise it would defy the human condition.
Yep.
So when people talk to me about, I used to code, right? I used to be a developer. I used to be a database administrator. I used to tune databases. And it's all owned by Mother Oracle now. It was Retech at the time, but Oracle Retail is how it's referred to as now. But people will be like, well, that's because you went to school for that. That's because you have a computer science degree. No, I have a degree in talking. My 4-year degree is in speech communication. I didn't even use a computer when I went to school. I was on my Smith Corona. That's a typewriter, children. I didn't even take a computer class. So how the hell did I learn to code? Because I wanted to learn. Somebody taught me, and I learned on the job. I didn't go to school. I learned on the job. How did I learn database administration? The company I was at, it's like, we need more people who know how to do this. I said, I'll give it a try. Sounds cool. And then I very quickly left them once I realized what my newfound skills would bring on the market. But, that's a different conversation. I don't want to scare employers. But they paid crap, seriously. They paid crap.
So I guess at this time, Angela, is there anything you want to plug or promote to our listeners?
Well, they can't see the back of my shirt, but the back of my shirt does say, get your hands off the team's work. It is for the Scrum Master Files, which is my book that has 6 case studies in it of every mistake I made when I was a new Scrum Master. Seriously, it's just my failures. But it immerses the reader into the case study and teaches them what to do next. And so when people have been posting on LinkedIn or social and tagging me about what they learned in the book, I send them a free t-shirt. They get a free Get Your Hands Off the Team's Work t-shirt.
Awesome.
Nice.
Cool. Well, this was fun. Thanks for the conversation. And we'll leave all the info about book and t-shirts in the show notes.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
If you found value in today's episode, share this with a friend. Until next time, get agile and stay agile.